Hopefully,
This is atypical. Yeah.
This video is restricted. What is that?
Well, and if I could actually, let me try. Now what if I say, hey, I just say it's fine. Are we live?
Live now. Live now?
Yeah, but why is it saying we're live?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're right there. And
Not.
Live
No.
news. Here we are. Chat rate. Who's on there? Concur viewer one. Okay.
no confidence.
I know, and that's why every time I just have to mess around with it. All right, I guess we're live.
Scooch the whole table this way a little bit.
As long as it's power, that's our main limiting factor.
She's now considered shy. And so she doesn't know she's gonna be fired. Cool. Yeah. And she's not sure that that's out a little. Something that is.
That's awesome.
It's fun. I did this in my early days. That'll ease it.
It always comes through.
Yeah, and sometimes that's just a little separate. They actually in novel. Yeah. Yeah, she might. So I got from but my dad. I ended up buying.
Yeah.
From Amazon. Yeah. Boarding the bed, pillows, towels. Yeah, I know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know if you like to sign or you have so, and then I think she was just traumatized from it, and then every day. Well, luckily I alphabetized the picture.
Actually, did you get the agenda?
Yeah, she can go to these. This is the second.
Yeah, it seemed like that.
I know, I was gonna ask that.
All right. Very good. Okay. We're going to get started. Good evening, everyone. It's 6:10. Matthew Kwame. Welcome to today's meeting of the LSC. If you have any questions or if you need anything specific, we should have copies of the agenda and also copies of the principal's report if you need one. So again, welcome to today's meeting. I'd like to start with, after now welcoming our guests and parents, just kind of go through our quick norms. So throughout this meeting and the exchanges, we're going to strive to be active, engaged, and contributing participants by sharing practices and actively listening to others. We're going to strive to be flexible and respectful of others' time and decisions, be open to other people's truths and perspectives, and be reminded of all differences in cultural and social backgrounds. We're going to be transparent about concerns, challenges, and misunderstandings. We're going to try and be reflective, collaborative, and supportive, and always take the work back to student achievement. What can we do to make things better for our students, both academically and socially, emotionally? And we'll also respect student and staff members' confidentiality unless there's a threat to safety. So maybe we can go through and do a roll call.
Lori Zaney, principal.
Evan Craig, teacher rep.
Jerry Bamka, teacher rep.
Keith Bjorkman, parent rep.
Monica Bench, community rep. Ella All, student rep. Kathleen Hayes, parent rep.
Byron Adams, community rep.
Lindsay Moon, parent rep. Nicole Granicki, parent rep. Jacqueline Dooley, parent rep.
And teacher staff, Adolfo Ramirez.
And Matthew Kwame, and I'm the parent rep. The first item on the agenda is approve the order of the agenda. And I do have a slight comment. So the order of the agenda is what it is on the second page. If you look at item 3, specifically item 3A, Rafi reminded us that we also needed to approve the minutes of the regular meeting that was held back in October. So I'd like to make a motion to amend the order of the agenda to include the minutes, the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on October 2022.
October 20th and then November 17th.
Right.
Okay.
So because they're not listed.
Yeah.
We have to wait to
The
add.
next time,
We can't vote on anything.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
sounds good.
do something.
With that being clarified, we'll move on to item number 3. Items needing council approval, starting with the minutes of the regular meeting, our last regular meeting last year. 2 months already. Like to make a motion?
So the November 17th.
Right. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of that regular meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
I'm sorry. I have a question about an item on here.
Okay.
I don't understand what it means.
Okay.
It's item 10, add LSC member to the normal. I just don't know what that means, so I don't want to approve until somebody can clarify.
That's in
I
the
just don't
minutes?
understand that sentence.
That's in the minutes for the regular meeting?
Yeah, item 10. Add LSC member to the normal under check-in on normal. I don't know what that means. Just so that all of the minutes are clear. Right, that sentence doesn't, I have no idea what we're referring to there.
I have no idea. I think it meant to say norms.
Add LSC
That's
member to the norms.
Let's see, norms to the agenda, maybe?
Is that like when we approved the norms? Voted to-
I think that wasn't going to be for the norm. We didn't propose that, but we did vote for the norm.
So that's maybe just reflecting that we also added it to the agenda, because the vote is after that.
Yeah. Looks like
That
this.
wasn't there.
It's before the vote.
Yeah, so the last item, the last bullet point of the norm says respect students and staff member confidentiality. I think the idea was to add the word LSC members.
That's right. Yes,
Ah.
instead of respect student and staff members, because we're not students.
Okay. There you go. I didn't just stop the fun.
No,
I
that's,
just wanted clarity.
Uh,
And we have to do it.
Yeah.
all right, very good. Thank you for that. So with that, as amended, or,
Clarify.
no, you're good. So again, we're gonna go again for it. So I'd like to, I made a motion, do I second it? Do we have, so all in favor? Anyone opposed? Discussion?
I'm
Yeah, you guys
abstaining.
were-
I was not here. I couldn't remember.
The motion passes. The second item has to do with an approval of a proposal that's being brought up by FOP. So I did share right before this meeting, a proposal. So, I mean, Chad's here on behalf of FOP, so we figured he could come in, in addition to the forthcoming report, just briefly to detail what this is about.
Do you want to come up to the owl?
Am I okay? Y'all got plenty of, I've been wearing yellow. It's kind of funny. Hello, everybody. My name is Chad Curry, president of Friends of Pierce. We're proposing on having a babysitting night, March 10th. This is something we did prior to the pandemic, where we would have babysitting nights, and it was typically a fundraiser for the school trips to Washington DC or New York to offset costs. But we're augmenting pricing. We're making it $25 per child or $40 for a family. It'll be pizza and activities for the kids as well. Michelle's coinciding with the parents' night, is that right?
Yep.
Michelle's group, the peer service organization, is having a parents' night that night. So it's in concert with them. We expect to raise, maybe 40, 50 kids around, I think I put $1,500 is the amount to be raised. Expenditure of $400 for pizza and other supplies for the event itself. And it will go to funding requests from the school as Lori's outlined. We've done partial funding of Lori's requests. We want to fund the entirety of it. This would go to funds requests. I'm sorry?
Who's doing the babysitting?
It's just me in a room with, no, I'm kidding. It's gonna be Becky Rudzinski is one of our board members, as well as some kids from the school, 8th graders will help as well. Possibly student council, we're working and checking that out, but other parent volunteers as well.
Will seventh graders be able to participate?
Ella, great question. Maybe those in high seats of power, like the LSC perhaps, right? I can check and see if that's a possibility.
Financial details yet of how much cost?
Yes, I just gave you. this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, $25 per kid, $40 per kid. And $400 is what we're expecting to spend for the event itself. Keith,
What is the signing up process looking?
there'll be an announcement that goes out with a sheet.
And is there like limited spots then based on the amount of volunteers?
That's most, yes, that we would have to be, we'd have to make sure that we had volunteers to come. So typically we had around 50 kids. is what we had.
So on the request, it's like till 9:30, but the group would have to be up till 9 o'clock.
Right,
So
Okay,
I
that-
just adjusted
if
that
that needs
on
to be
here.
adjusted, let me know.
And then, just so that the council knows and the families know, if the council approves, then, we still need to wait for real estate to approve it, for it to be official and for us to be able to move forward. So we'd be like the next layer of approval, and then the district is.
Are there any concerns that there may not be enough time for approval, or in general, is that something that?
It's
usually
March,
works
I
out?
think we should be okay.
Yeah, that's about 6 weeks. We usually it's less than a week turnaround time.
Okay.
I mean, typically from one of my experiences. Working with this.
Any other questions? Comments?
And I'm gonna leave after this, so I don't have a.
Uh,
So
Don't worry about it. You just made one. So. Yeah, thank you,
Okay.
Jan. So I think. Unless there are any questions, I think we can bring that up for a vote. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the request for FOP to host or organize a babysitting night. I don't have the date.
March state.
The second Friday.
So there's two different approvals.
Yeah.
One is the fundraising proposal, because this is an on-site fundraiser. And the second is the temporary leasing agreement, so that FOP can temporarily lease the space.
Okay. Thank you. So the first motion is to approve the request for the fundraising event at Pierce.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Discussion? Passes. And the second motion that I'd like to make is for the approval of the lease agreement for the event. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The motion passes. Thank you again, Chad.
Thank you.
You're not feeling too well, so
Appreciate it.
have a good one. Next on the agenda is our student rep report. Ella, you're up.
Okay, so me and Miss Amy had a meeting on Tuesday during my lunch period. I went through all of the student voice committee surveys that we took in like November or something. And I looked for trends in the requests and stuff. Some of them were like bullying, bad language, and violence. The lunch, bathrooms, there's like no privacy and not clean. Recycling was a lot I heard, and then like cleanness around the school. the water fountains outside that don't work, bugs, and there was like a couple rodents that we saw in the lawn that people were concerned about. And then I saw a lot actually about the Gaga pit outside. Yeah, and then there's some like questions and stuff like that from people. Like someone asked like, why do we need a code for lunch? And then like people want a shorter lunch period.
You said shorter?
Shorter? Okay.
And then yeah, so like recess, and also like people wait like 5 minutes till we go outside. Well, at least a lot of middle schoolers do. So. And then a couple students, they made a petition to bring to the LSC about making school trips cheaper, because we have a school trip in, it's right after the DC trip to Springfield. They want to have some people help sponsor them and stuff with fundraisers. And then a lot of the girls' 7th and 8th grade basketball team is complaining about me too, about the hoops here being taken down, and so we have to practice with the boys. And it's just really tight because there's about 30 boys on that team and 15 girls on our team. I think that's it.
Did you say rodents at lunch or?
Well, like outside, they're in the park.
Not. in the
Not-
lunch line?
There was one.
Well, there was, like, but we got that figured out.
Just to clarify, the shorter lunch was because they want to walk or recess.
And that's in middle school, correct?
Well, I heard some 3rd and 4th graders also talking about it, because we go outside right as they're going to lunch, so.
They didn't actually complain about not having enough time for them. That's interesting that, okay.
We have lots of kids who come
I
back.
suppose they want both.
Yeah.
A longer lunch and a longer recess. Either way.
What's
So Gaga balls,
It's a big
it's a game with like, it's like a big round wall around it, yeah. And so it's like where you hit a ball and you get hit in the legs or out. And it's really fun, but it's broken right now, so a lot of people are upset about it.
So what's the lunch code? that you said?
So if you get a school lunch, you have to enter your code for, so when you're like, when you join peers, you get like the code, say it's like
Your ID number?
22, yeah, 2264. And so you have to enter that to get your lunch. So a lot of people are forgetting it, and the lunch ladies get kind of mad at you when you forget it, which is really, it's like hard to tell them that you don't do it. And it's just a lot of effort and stuff.
Well, and we as teachers asked about the code too, because if it's lunch for all, like if there's an easier way to just tally instead of holding it, because if it's lunch for all, like what does it matter who is necessarily getting it? So that's been like on both, because the 2nd graders have a time.
Yeah. I remember I had to carry
Yeah, yeah, we
everywhere.
made lanyards for them, or like a little card so that they know.
So folks, so that everybody knows this isn't a school policy regarding the codes, it's actually part of the free lunch program. And the lunchroom has to have the students enter the codes. And then if they don't have it, they have to look up the name, get the code and enter it. And so if they're audited and we're not following that protocol, it becomes an issue. And so we've reissued codes a couple of times this year And like, this has been, it's an ongoing issue every year. The codes are just constantly an issue, more so with younger kids than older students, but it's something that I'm not surprised to hear that because it just continues to be an issue.
Is that something that maybe we could make parents aware of, and then they can help with their kids remembering
We
what their
just set
codes
them
are?
home and
Oh, you did?
homework folders. Sometimes I think it's a little anxiety when you get up to the thing,
Yeah.
someone's asking a code and you're like,
Right.
but yeah, we usually in the primary grades, we send it home. They have a lanyard, like,
Huh. I have never seen one of those, but, yeah. Got it.
So what happens to the kids that don't eat the school lunch, to bring their lunch?
they
They'll
just
bring
walk
their
around.
own
around.
lunch.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll just walk through that all the time.
But it's also like, so then the kid who gets the lunch every time because they need or want the free lunch,
sure,
it becomes an issue. because-
right.
Yeah.
Are there other ways of using it, like a card that you scan, or I don't know, I'm just trying to think of something that'll make the process.
We do not have any of that. Like the district doesn't have the technology for that.
That would have to be a district decision.
We could microchip the kids.
Yeah, those cards would be lost, like,
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah,
is I don't know.
unless they're wearing it, like.
Is there, you said that it's documented of like their numbers? Is it possible to have, I'm thinking of like a phone book that is not as cumbersome as a phone book that kids can use as a reference or something, but I mean, the hardest thing is that like we have our phones and we could use that, but even their pockets and
We
stuff.
just need the kids to remember the 4 digits. Like that's ultimately the goal, is like 4 numbers. We just have to
Yeah.
get them to remember those 4 numbers. Because like bringing stuff back and forth to the lunchroom to recess, that stuff gets lost.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like a tricky transition time. during the
So
day.
is the numbers associated with kids that also bring in their own home lunch?
Everybody has.
So
a-
everybody has one, okay. Because maybe that's something that room reps can help with even, like maybe like parent directory, we can also put on there what the kid's like number is, and then parents can reference it, help the kids memorize it, and so they're aware of it. I don't know, I'm just trying to think of ways, because I've just never even noted this number, and I don't know if my kids even know it. So, yeah, it might be helpful. I mean, yeah, we're kind of 50-50 when it comes to school lunches, as far as home luncheon, but
Is the number the student ID? Can I use your student ID?
Student ID would be like 10 pages.
yeah.
Well, and you can have like the last 4 digits of your student ID, that would be like.
I just want to say thank you, Ella, for that report. It's a really nice way to get a window into the student perspective. We're all nodding. Really intriguing, so keep it up. And I want to keep hearing. Were there outcomes?
So what we talked about is, we need to go back to the student voice committees. Like we had talked about that early in the year. I've been gone for 2 months. And so we're trying to get those going. The issue right now is having enough staff members willing to support a student voice committee. So we're trying to figure out, we wanted these issues to be brought back to student voice committee so that they could identify the priorities and what they want to work on. And so Ella and I are gonna meet on a monthly basis, but then we're trying to get the student voice committees going so that there are action steps and a pathway forward. Some of them, like the students wanted to like come up with like campaigns or ways to bring awareness to bullying. That really needs to be like a student-led initiative, like getting more voice into like what the bathrooms are. There's a lot of conversations with the district already around bathrooms. So like a lot of these things, except Gaga Pit, are already things that have come up through student council meetings in years past, and so we've always prioritized and created a plan.
Have you, we're just coming back. So this is truly a question, not a criticism, but have you thought of like how the bathrooms, because it sounds like that's an impediment to getting this up and running.
Correct.
Is there, like, can parents volunteer to help coordinate that, or does it have to be staff members?
I mean, there could be parents that support, there could be. So like if we exhaust that there are no staff members that are able to help, then we will. I reached out to two of the staff members that expressed interest back in September, and so I'm waiting to hear back from them so that we can circle back. So we may be okay, we may not be.
Are you talking about facilitating for the bullying?
Yeah, just trying to, it sounds like getting the student voice committee, or I don't know what the official name is, but getting that off the ground, relies on staff members, and I was informed there's possibly doing that. On my mind jumped to like what other adults could possibly help with that, so that these things could address.
Or even kind of along that front with, if there's cleanliness issues in the bathrooms, I mean, I know we have janitorial staff that does an amazing job, but it's a constant flow throughout the day. So maybe even there's parents that have time throughout the day that maybe we can check to see if they, one parent coming in once a day, just go through the bathrooms midway through the day, pick up trash. I don't know what the exact issues are, but I don't know if there's any ways we can think outside the box to keep things clean.
The specific comment about LSC approval for the, or petitioning the LSC. So is that something that would require action steps for them to then present it to us? Or is that something where they were asking about making school trips cheaper? Is that something that that voice council would prepare something to present to us, or is it something that in you sharing it, we should be discussing?
I'm not really sure, they just asked me to bring it up. I think that they'd like you guys to hear their idea, and maybe discuss about it, but I'm not sure what they're planning to do to like get this running and stuff, but I can talk to them.
Yeah, I mean, it could be something that's sort of, I don't know. I guess, in my opinion, we would want more information from them to know where they're coming from and what they're hoping they could receive assistance for. And so maybe that's part of your action item, that Principal Zane is helping coordinate guidance and how to put together a proposal or present at the next meeting or something.
Very good. I just wanted to, for the audience here, I don't know if folks know or are aware, we now have a student representative on the LSC, which we never had before. So Ella is one of them, or is it? And so she speaks on behalf of the students. I just wanted to kind of raise that up. So, thank you so much for your time and your report. Next, principal's report. It's been a while.
Yeah, thank you. I'm back. I returned the Thursday after winter break, so today's actually my 2-week mark, and I've had some additional issues surface. So I haven't been here fully the last 2 weeks. So I'm still trying to get myself caught up on everything that's going on. But I will say that I'm like super thankful for Principal Cortez, along with Mr. Lee and Ms. Munoz, along with the rest of the leadership team and the school staff, to be honest, for keeping the school functioning so well during my absence. I think it speaks volumes to the systems and structures that we have in place, and to show that like we've got a good school, not because of one person, but because we've built a strong structure to support students and to support staff when the principal is on. The district let us know earlier this week that the next round of continuous improvement work planning will not be released until the spring. And so in years past, we've been able to begin working on that plan around this time. And so they're pushing it back because they want to make sure that there's a better effort at coordinating district resources and making sure that the district's blueprint is in place prior to schools creating that plan. So I'll share more information as I receive it. Our work around formative assessment has continued. We're halfway through our cycle of learning. We're shifting into sort of like a pathway from theory into more practice and strategies that teachers can use in the classroom. And so we're looking at clarifying, sharing, and understanding learning intentions and success criteria. And then peer observations are continuing. We are in our second round of staff. Peer observation is the first round. We're sort of a little bit more, there were teachers could choose who they were observing. This time there's a little bit more choice in who they're observing. And then teachers have continued with data review cycles at the 5-week mark and then at the end of the quarter. Star 360 and iReady testing is close to being finished for K through 8 students. And so we'll be looking at MOI data next week during our February 3rd Professional Development Day. The co-teaching PLC has continued with Ms. Sweeney and Mr. Tradd along with our special education team. On our February 3rd PD session, Facing History is coming back to do a second part to the Race in Schools workshop that they led for us. I cannot remember if it was last school year or the year before, but there's a second follow-up session that they'll be leading for our team. And then just to take note of some of like the staffing shifts that have happened. Actually, I'll wait on that one. I've got budget transfers that I will address later on. I wanted to make note that part of those part of our school budget currently is that I'm in touch with the Chief of Office of Language and Culture to request additional position, at least one additional position be allocated to the school as a result of the influx of students who have come into the US over the last year. We've had about 31 students come in, some have left, and we're at 27 right now. Many have come from Colombia and Venezuela. And so we're finding that there's a need to have additional support for y'all, and we want to see if the district can support us with that. And then I'm also in the process of submitting a request to the district to increase increase the special ed classroom assistants that we have. And I'm reviewing special ed teachers' schedules and caseloads because there may need to be a request for additional teachers. I'm not 100% certain about that yet. The work around our school playground is continuing. The anticipated start date would be around the first week of April, but we're just waiting to hear if that is in fact going to happen. And I'll share more information with the school community once we know that that is in fact the start date. And congratulations to Berenice Heinlein. She's a 4th grade teacher at our school. She achieved national board certification, which is a pretty rigorous process. And so she's been successful with that the first time around without having to redo anything, which is not also very common. We are at 46% of reach observations completed for the school year, which is we're on pace to be completed by the end of the school year, halfway through the year, about halfway done. And then the Pearson partnership continues. So February 7th is our next cross-school partnership meeting. We had the IB evaluation visit end of November. We're still waiting for the results of that visit to come back to the school. We'll look at that and then help develop our action plan based on the information that comes out from that. We've had 3 teachers that are new hires to 2 teachers that are new hires, but 3 total vacancies. So we've had 3 members of our special education team leave middle of the year. And so Meredith O'Malley, Anna Munns, and have been hired to fill 2 of those positions. And then the 3rd position is not filled yet, but we have a cadre substitute who's in the process of receiving their special ed endorsement that will likely be able to be staffed into that position shortly. And we've had some new members join our lunch and recess team. So Quentin, Rosa, and Ralphie are all on board, and then we will have additional hires. That's a position that we're constantly hiring for. People will generally come in, stay for a period of time, leave, and then it's a constant cycle. And then Ella already gave us the report. Thank you, Ella. Our partnerships have begun and some of them have already completed. So just gave a progress report that Raven Theater for 1st grade is starting. Mandala begins in February with 3rd grade, 4th grade. They are working with Playmakers Lab, and their final performance will be March 3rd. 5th and 6th finished their work with Writers Theater, and 7th and 8th will begin in February. We're still finalizing pre-K and second grade arts partners. 4th through 8th grade students completed the Cultivate survey. So we've always had the My Voice, My School survey available to students and staff. But this year, the district, in coordination with the state, has a new survey that provides an MOI checkpoint called Cultivate, but we won't receive the data from that survey until the end of February. So once we get that data, then we'll be able to analyze, create action plans, and I'll share what we've got with the LSC. We've got some great things happening within our sports team. So thank you, Lindsay Moon and Nana Adu, right, have been supporting the cheerleading team, which has been great to have cheerleading back and bringing some more school spirit to our competitions. And then the 5th, 6th grade girls won the basketball conference championship. In relation to what Ella was saying about the basketball hoops, so FOP had generously funded replacing basketball hoops in the old building and then also in the lunchroom. And so when these came down, the plaster came with it. So the building's 108 years old. And so the vendor is in coordination with the district to make sure that the plaster that's put up and that when these spaces are fixed will be strong enough so that the hoops that are installed are not, won't fall down. So that was not, I guess, anticipated as, you know, they removed them.
Is that why it's taking longer?
Yeah, and that's why the teams ended up, it was sort of like no one predicted it. Someone could have predicted it, but no one predicted it. And so it was in the middle of basketball season. And so like the only way around was to combine everybody, which has created some crap conditions and not ideal, but it's the only way to keep sports going. I included student code of conduct data, so I was not able to include it disaggregated by race and EL because I just got back and because my coordination with some of my staff members has not fully been in sync yet. I wasn't able to get from Shelton the final like recap. He's been out, I've been out, we just have been not together at the same time. And so I was able to just pull what I've got from dashboard for now and put that in here, which shows a total number by group, but I want to be able to provide the disaggregated data because that's something that we've committed to sharing with the school community on a regular basis.
Amy,
Yes.
question about that. So when it says group 1, group 2, group 3, that was gonna be my question. What are those groups?
So those are the different levels of the violations. In the past, I've given you exact codes with the numbers, which I did not have. And so that's what I want to be able to provide more detail related to those codes along with the disaggregation by race and EL.
You know, when you'll be able to have all that together.
I need to check in with Shelton, so I don't know, but I would hope within the next week, 2 weeks. And always that I wanted to make, I did have in my principal's report, the Valentine's Day proposal. It's not on the agenda, but that was something that needed approval. So I don't know if we're able to vote on the Valentine's Day dance and the from a leasing agreement and a fundraising approval. Since they're not technically on the agenda, but they're in my report.
We could do it one day at a special meeting. That's
Okay.
what I was gonna suggest that too.
Okay, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Laura, you mentioned the additional students, I think there were 31 and now it's down to 27. Do you have a rough idea what the spread or the distribution in grades, like are there particular grades more affected than others?
It's across the building. So when we request the position, we're gonna request it and frame it from supporting in the younger grades. Because Mr. Lerner's schedule currently is, he supports in the primary grades for one period a day, but most of his time is in the upper grades. And so we do have a need in the primary grades.
I'm curious about the teachers leaving. Nationwide, we have a problem with teacher attrition and teacher retention, and I'm just wondering if you have any feedback. And also curious, were these teachers in their beginning years? Are they veteran teachers?
Yes. So I can give a little context. So one of them left the teaching profession altogether, and that had been a question on that person's mind for a little while. The other one was a new hire to the school who had been working in upper grades, came in pre-K, realized pre-K was not the place that they were most comfortable in and wanted to go back to middle grades. And so found a position in upper grades and in school. We didn't have an opening in upper grades there. And then the other one was a general ed teacher before, had expressed interest in becoming a special education teacher, became a special education teacher and realized that they wanted to be a general education teacher. So we didn't have any general education positions, and so they found a general ed teaching position. It's sort of like things that you thought you would want, you start doing it and you realize this isn't for me. And so then the shift is made. It's not ideal, and so it makes it really difficult from a hiring angle, especially for special education.
A question about the misconduct data. It looks like this year is on track to exceed
Yes.
previous year by quite a bit.
Yep.
What's driving that?
I need to figure that out. I don't know. And part of that is because I just got back.
Yeah.
So prior to me leaving, we had very few misconducts. And so I'm not sure the huge increase.
I had a question actually on the playground renovation. I've been asked by a few parents actually if there's plans that we can access. I don't know, would it be through the Alderman's website that we can see the plans?
I can look at that. I can answer that.
I don't know if it's accessible.
It hasn't been approved yet, is it?
I think it's final. I think they've got their final plans. That was done while I was gone.
That was a meeting.
I was at that meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and so
I
it
did.
was after that meeting that they were fine. They were supposed to be finalized.
Right, 'cause during that meeting, it wasn't, they said that was a proposed plan.
I have a question about budget transfer information. So like, moving of funds that come from FOP. What's the criteria that determines that?
So-
What goes where?
So these funds had already been, like, voted on by FOP. The funds were deposited into the school account. They were voted on by the LSC as well through last year's move-a-thon, for instance, for the art line. And I cannot remember if and the field trips was from pre-pandemic. So those two things had already been voted on by the LSC and by FOP. And so the way that it works is that FOP writes a check to the school, we deposit it into internal accounts. But then we have to move the money from internal accounts to a budget line in order to generate a purchase order. And so I wanted to make sure that the council knew that we're at the phase now of moving from internal accounts to a budget line so that a purchase order can be created.
So it's like a previous decision earmarked it, and then this is the
Correct.
execution of-
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Lori? Well, thank you and welcome back again. Uh, Next item was the safety committee update. I think we kind of put it as a, I wouldn't even call it placeholder, but kind of there are updates
Yeah, so, the update that we had is I've been working with CC Sweeney and Josh Lerner, with the concerns about the doors not closing properly. Mr. Hand and I have the notes. He and I walked around at the back of the gate, and we walked around on this December 8th. He and I walked around we went through the whole building and we took notes on every door and how it closes from inside, from outside, and what have you. The notes were sent to CC and Josh, and Art's boss, who oversees him, was aware, and so an order was put in for new doors where they were warranted, and that's where we are in that process right now. But you have to go around to every single door and push it and open it and wait for it to close, and then took notes on each door for us to reference. So that's what we're working on right now. As of right now, there's no update on the actual order because it's a capital improvement.
Yeah, they have to do a capital improvement request, which is gonna require board approval before it can move forward. So prior to that, they were trying to do one door at a time. And so the district has said, not the district, his manager said just submit it for capital.
But Art did,
But that can take a long time.
yeah, and Art very graciously, like, he worked on a few of the doors on trying to fix things on his own, and there have been improvements. He and I just actually spoke the other day, and we were talking about maybe walking around again, because also as the weather changes. So that's the only safety, not committee, but safety thing.
Who is this?
He's our engineer.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Hand, it's Mr.
Pat Hader,
Okay.
Mr. Hader.
HADUCH.
For your efforts on this, Jerry.
Yeah.
It's really important. Children safety.
We recently, starting at the year, we had 2 new doors put on door number 2, 5, and 3. 3 doors. So that's being part of the, mainly word, door 1, it's one of those that he's been working so hard, trying to make him as secure as possible. Because those are used the most. He's been trying to work as much as he can. But we still have some doors that especially when the weather change.
Right. Yeah, that was a question that I had about those doors, especially door 1. Is there a way to make it so like a vestibule, kind of like what you're seeing behind you there, where there's a set of doors to get in and then another to get into that vestibule and another set to get into the actual building? Because right now it's just straight
They
in.
would probably have to build out. I
Yeah,
don't think they'd be able to. Build it.
front door. Yeah. Thanks again, Jerry. So moving on, I think we have on the budget, so internal accounts, there's quite a few.
So I had shared December's internal accounts. I will make a motion to approve December's internal accounts.
I'll second. Anybody? Anyone?
So that's,
That's.
we have this? Wait, so,
I emailed them on Monday night.
oh,
No,
So
these
that's
are
different. That's
transfers.
just transfers.
It's the one with the bank statement. And I learned from the LSC budget training that we have to remove the account number when we're emailing it. That was a new fact for me. I was like, okay, I got something out of this.
I learned something.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah, so all in favor? Oh, actually, did anyone second?
Didn't you?
I did. Yes, sir. All in favor? Anyone opposed?
Abstain.
Yeah, that's fine. Good. And then, so next item is transfer of funds. I think we discussed that. I don't know if there's anything to
So I had noted 5 different budget transfers in my principal's report. 2 of them are from FOP, moving from internal accounts to the budget line. The other one is the final payment to developing capacity. So last year, the council had approved $15,000 for developing capacity, but we only did $10,000 worth of work. And the final round was this school year. And so we finished the work with developing capacity, but the money had to roll over, and when it rolled over, it rolled into a different line. So we just had to, we have to vote to move it to the correct line so that a purchase order can be created. And so it's like the funds were there, it was just a matter of moving it from the line that it was rolled over to into the line that needs to be. And then the 4th budget transfer is to cover a negative in the salary line that we had, as I had mentioned earlier in the year. Sometimes position costs shift over the course of the year, and so there was a $1,132.48 negative that we need to move, and so that was pulled from a benefits line that had some money on it. And then the last one is we had funds that were loaded by the district on a miscellaneous line, and so my request is to move that to a supply line. For purchasing.
By supply, does that mean school supplies?
Correct.
Like classroom stuff.
Correct. So I will make a motion to approve all 5 transfers as noted in my principal's report.
All in favor? Any opposed? Same. Passes.
I actually have a question, not on your report there, but actually just being in a cheerleading meeting, there was conversation about funding that came for like uniforms and bus transfers to games and competitions. And I was under the impression that because we weren't a team last year, we weren't eligible for that. But I'm curious to know if you know, or Mr. Carbajal knows, because there's that competition in Hyde Park that is kind of a remote area, and we've been asked if there's going to be transportation provided from some of the students. So I don't know if that's
We can purchase a bus.
we can. Okay.
Work with Louise to see if it needs to come out of the
Okay.
sports line or out of the school line, but we
Okay.
can purchase a bus for that.
Okay, so that might be helpful.
Yeah.
I think for families, if we can do that. Okay.
When is it?
February 4th.
But then we need field trip. There's a lot that's gonna have to get done in a very short period of time. We would need to enter a field trip approval like tomorrow.
Okay.
And we would need to see if
So
there's even a bus available for, because that's next Saturday. There may
Yeah.
not be a bus company available.
Yeah, and then we would have to approve it as an LSC,
No.
or you guys are able
No,
to.
no, no,
do-
that's
yeah.
just like internal. We just
Okay.
need to submit it to the district. If you email me what's needed, I can share it with Sally and she
Okay.
can look into that.
Okay, thank you.
It's nice to the others. But, any other questions? Anything else? All right, great. We're now going to move on to the next section, which is public participation. I think we had a sign-up sheet here. I don't know if other folks would like to join. So I think a couple people join after that. First, Christina Woods.
Should I like stand up? It doesn't.
It's-
Chad did a whole thing.
It will look you up, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was a part of the cohort that did next steps, and I am grateful and appreciative to see that there's some data in this principal's report about discipline, but it's been a year since we've had the racial disaggregation of discipline data. And I think the last time that we had any data to look at was from the January 2022 meeting. And so I am just wondering if there's a way to increase that cadence to get some transparency with the community so that we can have a better understanding of if things are shifting, given all of the work that people are doing in the school.
No data since January.
From September, October, like the beginning of the year, I'd asked you, and the system
The
wasn't
system
working?
was not working, that's correct, and then it was gone. Yes, okay,
I think it was systems issues
yeah,
initially, and I'm not sure if that's still the thing that's continuing, but even if there's an anecdotal way or qualitative way to kind of collect some of that information, I think it would be helpful to get an understanding, especially since these numbers show that midway through the year, we're already like
there was nothing in
tracking.
state of the school either. State of the school presentation. didn't
There
have-
was, yeah,
Yeah, state of the school should have had data.
but they might.
November.
Last week.
I'll pull it up right now.
But I think regardless, like, the question is like, why was, so,
Even if it happened once
yeah,
in the span of a year, I think for us to be accountable. for
we had
us-
said quarterly basis, we would said that we would do like a monthly report out to the LSC. And then we said quarterly, sort of like more comprehensive share out.
Right, yeah, so I'm just requesting that that happen. That's it, that's for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that, what creates, what's the system that creates the report? Is that CPS or is that?
So
Or it's outside?
that's been sort of, we've been struggling with two different systems because we had created our internal tracking document. The district then updated Aspen to where we were no longer using the internal tracking because it's all now through Aspen, but it is not producing reports the way we expected it to produce them.
So it's like a technology issue through Aspen, basically?
I need to talk to Shelton to figure out like where things are at.
There is something in the state of the school address that happened at the November LC meeting. It's, I don't know exactly what slide number, slide 26. It's restorative practices data, and there's a racial breakdown. But I can't make sense of the groups again, similarly to what we were talking about today.
So I think what we're trying to do is have, number one, the reporting on a more consistent basis, and then have an explanation as to what those groups represent. I remember on the prior LSC, there was that committee that we were talking about, the safety because of COVID and all that. We were discussing those at that time, and that's when we did the disaggregation. And that's when we came up with the quarterly release. So I think we should go back to that and just have that available, whether it's these reports or even available on the school site, the drive, the drive, where all of the reports are, agendas.
So does it need to be something that's on the agenda quarterly? Was that the?
It should be, it should be in my principal's report. Like, my goal is to have it in the
Oh,
principal's
okay.
report monthly, similar to the way that this is in here now. The disaggregation part has been tricky.
So is that fair to say that's a goal now from here on out that we're gonna?
It's been a goal. It's an absolute goal.
Or can you say a little bit more about what makes the disaggregation tricky?
Because the data has not been clean to analyze, because we don't want to just look at the sort of like the final SEC, it's sort of like the referrals that are also being made, not just the things that end up as an SEC violation. We wanted to look at all referrals total. And that's where we don't have like a clean, easy to produce report. It requires a lot of like manual review to look at which students were involved, what's the racial identity, do they have an IEP, it's a lot of like manual production.
Aspen, like what typically does the disaggregation when it's working right? Like what?
So Aspen will feed into dashboard, but it will only take the SEC violations, not the ones that are just like general logs that we've been trying to monitor. Because we use restorative practices as our model, there's a lot of things that do not end up as an SEC violation, and we wanted to really look at any referral coming from the classroom.
So when you shared the data a year ago, what did you that
We
disaggregation?
did it, we had an internal form, Google form, that teachers were using to enter it into, and then it created clean graphs.
And that's not happening anymore?
No, because we now have Aspen as like the journal entry. Because the district now has sort of the same thing we were doing with Google Forms, they have that in Aspen, where teachers can then create the referral there, and then it's escalated to our P coach. And then he's able to determine, does this go SEC, is this like more of a restorative conversation? And so the numbers are like the way of entering it is different. So we've been struggling with like a consistent system over time. Because we didn't have the Google form prior, we created the Google form. Now the Google form, we're now using Aspen only.
So how can we help make that? I mean, is there anything we can do?
I need to talk to Shelton. Yeah,
You say Shelton.
Mr. Jackson, sorry. Thank you.
We're gonna see like that.
Right, next, Lauren?
We're gonna talk after the report, so this might be a good point. But I just wanted an update on, if you guys have figured out what LSC committees, committee members are able to be a part of. That was discussed in the prior meeting.
I didn't catch any of that.
Let you know so we had to make a determination of, or how we would determine which committees parents or non-LLC members are able to participate in. And I don't know, so we can go back to the minutes and try and figure out when that discussion took place and what we had decided. Or I
Where
would,
the discussion was that you guys had to look at rules to figure out which ones.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think there was a resolution.
I don't,
I think we have it in the bylaws.
I thought the discussion took place in September, like.
It was like our first meeting.
And then it was gonna be sent out to hold the public as to what committees that they were interested in being on, correct? Kathleen, were you sending out something to ask what committees people wanted to be on?
No, the only thing I was doing was in conjunction with OMA to make sure that committees were following OMA and that we are getting committee reports as a means of making meetings more efficient.
Maybe if we pull up the notes from September, but that's what I thought that we were supposed to send out something to survey the community as to what they want to be on. I don't remember who took the lead on that.
In the principal's letter.
You put it in the newsletter.
You wanted to, you want to be a part, it was a survey, but it was, you want to be a part of any one of like these committees, please email or whatever the content.
Right, that's what I think, and I'm pretty sure that was a September meeting.
Wait, I was sent out a newsletter. But I don't think we got any.
It was just equity committee, I think there was.
yeah, there's only
Yeah.
a couple of people.
It's not like it's open, and all committees are open. For one, right?
Yes, that's where we're at now, like voting on members and chairs.
Lauren, can I put you on the spot?
Yeah, sorry, it was hard to hear.
So basically what we're saying is there were no, so we put in an announcement in one of the newsletters that came out sometime in September to ask for folks if they were interested, or which committee they were interested in joining. At the time, we had just had our first or second meeting on the equity committee, and a couple of parents, some of whom were on or attended the meeting, expressed interest, and one of them is now part of the, or has formalized their interest. I actually an email to say, hey, I'd like to discuss this. But I guess what I wanted to do is, again, in terms of putting you on the spot, are there specific ones that you were interested in, or?
Yeah, well, I mentioned the communication committee, and so I saw the equity committee call out, but that's not the committee I'm interested in. So I think
That's okay.
it was unsure if
Okay,
outside people would be on the committee, so that's why I wanted to. But I did see that communication, it
okay.
was not, but yeah, I was interested in.
Okay, no, it's fine.
Can you say outside people, you mean non-LSC members?
That's right.
Yeah, that's what, I don't think there was an answer to that.
Somebody else said this, that's in the bylaws, right?
So,
Which I don't have in front of me, but I feel like there's an easy answer to your question by looking at the bylaw. We not you, we need to look at the bylaws and answer that question.
Yeah, certainly looking at it. Maybe we can do another email, kind of, we did it, or another, not email, another announcement, kind of, we did the last one. And I do it with you every month, you know, because like not everyone reads everything every month, so if someone reads the main issue really, or the 1 week really carefully to make us. So,
Lindsay, you drafted the last one. Yeah, so if you just send it to Kim and I, she's helping with coordinate it.
Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for communicating.
right. It's really, really hard to really sort of drive. What was the action item on it?
This is like college, right? Like a college dorm room. So the action item is for us to resend that request for a new newsletter, to gather some, or, you know, feedback or, you know, interest from folks.
Oh, including all of them.
That's right. But right now, so we'll take a look at the bylaws, but I think in the bylaws it stipulates which members or which committees are open. And I don't think there are any restrictions except for perhaps for one, but we'll figure that out. I mean, if I need to, I'll send you an email directly, or, you know, stay in touch.
One other thing too, for communications committee, I know we said that was gonna be open, so, and one thing we discussed last time was that all the committees have to follow open meetings act, so whenever they meet, it's gotta be, it has to be an agenda, it has to be public, there has to be a chair. So we still have to get all that set up and have each committee like formalize like who are the official members, so that we know what the quorum is. So each committee needs to work on that sort of individually.
I think I found, at least, I don't think there were changes to this, but I have the bylaws, they were the draft you sent us, so I don't know if that's the actually approved ones. But from the copy I have, it says that membership on the following standing committees is limited to council members, and those are bylaws, council education, executive, principal review committee. But membership on the following committees will not be limited to council members. That's the bilingual advisory council, the LSC communication team, and the LSC safety and security committee, which is now.
No longer.
So,
And the equity committee.
yeah, so maybe that's why I should be.
Is that the 2021, 2022?
It says it's dated September 18th, 2022. But I think this is, if I recall correctly, it's what Nicole sent us to review before we voted. We did, I just don't have, I don't think I have the updated copy, but I don't think the committee info is different. I think the only thing that's missing in my copy is
It sounds like the equity committee, the bilingual advisory committee, and the LSC communications committee are open to all members of, I mean, parents.
Halfway-ish through the school year, and it'd be a shame to like go to May. The timeline as far as like getting those going.
I think that as a group, we can make a commitment to have by the end, by next meeting, we'll have that, at least the communication out and the feedback or the interest back to finalize. I mean, you can start selfishly on one of the committees that I'm part of, we're having meetings, and we've had this structure for a couple of the last 2 meetings, so just want to make sure that it does happen for all of them.
I think I'm not understanding the last question. Were you asking?
So we have the OMA structure requirement.
Like,
We know that we have committees.
yeah,
At what point are we going to solicit the feedback from the parents? At what point that feedback then will be translated into those parents that are willing and able to participate, actually be invited to attend those meetings? And then all the work around putting out the agenda, holding those meetings and reporting back to the LSC. So I'm trying to figure out, again, since we're halfway through a year, at what point is all this going to happen? So when is the next communications committee meeting? Exactly. So that's what she's asking. So trying to figure out like all of those.
Well,
those
is
steps.
that what we are a part of?
Yeah, I
Right,
mean,
is the communication?
I think it's been unformalized, and I think the whole time we've kind of been like, does it really, at least my perspective is like, does communications really need to be a formal committee? And where we're having additional meetings on top of LSC meetings to formally discuss LSC communications. So that has been kind of along the lines with like the safety committee. I think it's a very important aspect of the work that we do as far as our communications and making sure our community is aware of LSC happenings and what we're talking about, and making sure there's unity between us and our community as far as communications is concerned. But is this something that we want to have a formal committee where we are having monthly, or I guess however often meetings? And so I think as a group, we just need to determine that. We need to determine, like you said, how many people we want on it, who we want as chair, and what our actual, I think the bylaws do have kind of the structure, the goals of the communications committee, but I think if we're meeting and we're just not sure what we're wanting to work on, then it sort of seems pointless. So yeah, I think as a group, we just need to formalize it a bit more.
Lauren, it sounds like you have some ideas, possibly, of where you want to take the communication committee, or like kind of a vision. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, not like, there's no master plan, there's just areas of, like, yeah. Are you asking me to share those now, or?
I mean,
I mean, not necessarily. I think that we're lucky that people are looking to join, right? It's just we need to find the best way to make that happen, right? Like, because as Lindsay mentioned, there's a lot of additional steps that we would be required to take and all that, and
is it kind of like OMA is an impediment to organically drawing people
That's
in?
correct.
So should we skirt that impediment by making this not official?
Right, and so it almost feels like almost more productive to me to be like, you're here, I would love to hear what you have to say right now, and we can talk as a group, but I don't know,
I think you just make yourself a member right now.
Well, and what would be the downside of somebody contributing their assistance in one field, but not being a member of some? Like if you have somebody whose strengths are within communication,
The committees have to meet is what we said. So if there's not gonna be LSC like communication committee meetings, then I think we should dissolve the committee. I think whenever we decide to dissolve a committee, we should put that work though in the bylaws somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't disappear.
Yeah, because it could just be as simple as, say, Keith and I just meet with Lauren outside of here, and we can share feedback from a non-LSC member to us, and we can still do the work of communications, but it's just not as formal of a process, but
I think that it's that big impediment of if there are, more, if there's what is the number? I'm too tired.
forum.
Yeah, it relates to quorum and, how many people are in the group and, can you two talk to Lauren without violating OMA? Like, that's the big pain in the key star. Really, yes. That,
So within an LSC meeting, could we determine a meeting with the three of us in which it would go on public record and or would, I guess, I don't know, something with the bylaws better, would it have to be announced?
yeah, posted already, and then a public place.
Okay.
And isn't, yeah, and it doesn't matter really, it doesn't matter how many people, it's just if it's an established committee
Yeah.
determined by the.
I think it's more than three. It's that it depends on how many people are part of that committee. And then,
For this, it's more than three.
I mean, I would suggest that the three of you get together and decide if this is a committee or not.
Okay.
Or where else the work.
So let's do that.
Yeah.
From moving forward, we'll connect, I'll email the three of us, and then we can work that out.
But we will resend the communication before request for participation.
I think
Or-
we should wait maybe before, until we meet, and
Okay.
then we'll determine if we want to extend it again.
Right.
We would need to just have an agenda item that says the committee. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah,
And the names, members.
right.
So that-
Thank you, Lauren. And next, Bianca. Hi.
A couple of quick comments. First, thanks to Christina for bringing up the question about disaggregating the discipline data. It's super important, so I'm glad it's back at the forefront. But I had a question about the budget transfers, the $13,000 for scholarships. Can you share what that covers? Is it going directly to cover students? How many students? And how is that decided?
I don't have the exact number of students that it's going towards, but it was for student scholarships. I can look at like how many students.
Is it limited or is it distributed amongst like everybody? I guess I'm not, it's not.
Students had applied for scholarships and then they wrote an essay, read essays. Some students needed full scholarships, some needed partial scholarships. Some just wrote the essay because they thought it was a good practice for them to do it. The topic of the scholarships came up in a previous LSC meeting, and so Mr. Lee is going to look at sort of like rethinking the scholarship process and how we can consider enhancing equity within the process. I think there's some surveys to the community that we want to do. We want to gauge, like, is a 7th, 8th grade trip what the community still wants? It was wanted when this whole thing came up 5 years ago. There was a request from the community to have additional travel options, not as mandatory trips, but as sort of a supplement to the curriculum. And so I think there's like a question of, do we still continue on the path we're on? Do we change course? Is the goal that we fundraise for all students to go? How much money does that mean? Who's willing to take that on? There's a lot of questions that currently are around the travel and the scholarships, but in regards to the specific question on the 13,000, it was based on the practice that we had prior. Several students wrote an essay. I don't have the exact number in front of me that received money, but
But this number was based on the amount of scholarship people who wrote to ask for funds.
Correct. Correct.
Oh,
And
okay.
some who had expressed interest but did not request it, there was outreach intentionally to those students to encourage them to complete the process, and that we were successful.
And then I had a second, just comment about, thanks for sharing the data about the students who are new to peers, who are new from, maybe Colombia or Venezuela. And I'm wondering if there's anything that the school has done or that the school can do, and maybe with the help from parent organizations to do something actively to welcome the families. This is their first time here, the first time to peers, the first time in the city. I remember when we first started, there was an idea floated around of having family mentors sort of for like new families starting in pre-K or kindergarten. And I don't know if that's something maybe that can be applied to this situation in some way. That's just a brainstorming from.
I mean, I'd love to hear what our family's able to like support. We don't have like the internal capacity to do a lot of this stuff ourselves. And so what are the things that parents are able to do? We are doing intentional outreach via phone call to all of the students who are identified as newcomers to assess current need in order to determine who we may need to connect with external resources for, who might we need to reach out to within our school community to support some of those needs. I think that could be a really good like initiative. There's a lot of PSO in terms of like the parent mentoring. I think that's actually where the idea initially generated. And then I know in conversation with Josh, he said this was going to be something that the BAC also talked about.
I just want to add that I was talking to Mr. Josh Roller on the backpack meeting they're going to have coming up. They're going to be discussing about how to get medical support. And they're going to bring somebody who can help them out in their area. So that'd be interesting. And especially a lot of them, they probably have a lot of needs and other administrations, health-wise. Thank you.
What is the next, final advisory?
I think it's next Thursday.
Around the second. What is the cost of the DC trips that are at this college?
I don't have it.
It's
1,300. Almost 14.
And the Springfield trip, is $172.
There's also a trip with the 6 days in February or like a camp. Yeah. That was like.
$70.
What? How much is it?
$72.
Yeah. But it's for longer than that.
Did you say that the last thing that you just said about, or I got the Springfield trip and the Washington DC trip. What was it?
The Indiana Dunes,
Oh,
But you're saying it's longer than the Springfield trip, which is just like a 24-hour trip.
It's like a 2-day trip. And like having stuff, but it's our trip. It's interesting because our state's $100.
And the reason is that the Dunes Learning Center receives grant money to supplement the cost of the internet trip.
Plus we get the things here. Too.
there's also a pre-K field trip. I believe it's in one of the museums, children's
Yeah,
museum.
7th, is it?
That was $7, something like that.
No, that's 17.
17,
Oh,
I'm
it's
sorry,
not.
I'm sorry.
I know. I understand.
That's coming on lunch meal. Are you going?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
It's about 940, but I'm here for both. So the Dunes trip is like 146 and the Springfield trip is like 175.
Okay, I was wrong. With 50% discount.
That's like, wait a second.
He paid for with his chore money.
I have a question. So Bianca was also bringing up the resources that Pierce community can provide for their refugee students. What about the Pierce Mutual Aid? Is that still
Solidarity.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I haven't heard anything. I mean, that's not a school sponsored,
I'll see.
that's not sponsored by peers.
That was that. Friends with peers?
That was during the.
Yeah.
I know Josh Lerner, I think with some
Okay.
teachers were sponsored.
I can speak like a little bit. I was working with Jeff on that, and there's like a request form that exists, and whenever we get a request, we do fulfill it, and it hasn't been. I don't know, maybe 3 or 4, but not none of the use it, because in fact, this is the most recent one was. And it's usually like, it's really organic, like me and Josh will say, hey, friends, we have a request, and then just networks of people that we know donate money quickly, and then we give cash to the person who requested it
Yeah.
at the school.
Yeah, we also did like box drops, right? So, there were a couple of families that had several kids, so we had, whether it was Care for Real or, other volunteer organizations that had food available, we just dropped it off. We said, hey, we need that.
So maybe we can communicate that avenue to the vendor advisor.
So thank you again, all three of you for bringing these up, for participating. We have a couple other members in the assembly here. I don't know if folks want to put their names down or not, but we have public participation again later on in the meeting. So we'll move on, so thanks again. And so we'll move on to the next section, community group reports. First one is FOP. Chad was here a little earlier, talking about the upcoming babysitting night. He didn't have a report. So what we've asked is that folks send in reports ahead of time. So if there are some items to discuss. So it's working. It's starting to work. People are sending those reports in and whatnot, but we're going to continue and ask for these to come in before, so that we can make them available to everyone before those meetings take place.
Do we send reminders to them?
Reminders, we don't.
Okay, maybe that's something communications can do. So we get them.
And-
Matthew.
And that's also a good thing. So Michelle, thanks for sending us the information earlier. So that was the reason why I didn't make it to this, is we try to put out the agenda 48 hours before the meeting. So, if we can try and do that. So I think we have a solution for this case particularly, but I'm just speaking like in the future. And with that, you're up.
So yeah, I do have a few things to talk about. Like I'd like to start with the upcoming events and then do a recap of some of the events that we had. I'll try to be quick. So the Valentine's
Do you mind
dance.
coming up here so the owl can hear you
Oh,
too?
sure. Yeah, I have it in several spots. So the Valentine's dance is coming up on February 10th, and you said that you would vote on that on Monday.
That's right.
Special meeting, and that is going to happen for the whole school, so it'll be this gym and the other gym, just like our previous dances. We have our Lunar New Year parade, which is on Saturday, the 28th, which is this Saturday. And that is a school spirit. The cheerleaders will be there, the pickles will be there, and it's anyone is welcome to march in the parade and support and show spirit for peers. And we made the PSO made a big banner that the kids will carry, and we're going to donate those to the school. There's 2 banners that we made, 6 foot by 2 foot. The winter mixer for the parents, the date was changed. It was scheduled for the 20th, and then we heard that it was going to be the babysitting night that the FOP was organizing. So we changed it to coordinate that date, which is the 10th of March. And I think Chad said it starts at 6, is that babysitting? Anyways, I'll have to find out for sure, because right now it's scheduled, our camp mixer is scheduled from 7 to 10, but maybe I'll move it up to 6, so parents can take advantage of that. And it's going to be locally at
the Whiskey Girl gathering up on Clark Street here. So really looking forward to that.
There will likely be karaoke, right?
Well, actually, there might be, I'm going to reach out to a couple parents that are musicians to see if they'll play. Entertain the community, so we'll see. It's in the works, it's gonna be fun, don't miss it. There's gonna be communication coming out about the dance and the mixer. And there has been a lot of communication already out about the lunar parade. To recap, okay, I'm gonna pass around. The PSO organized a coat drive or a warm clothing drive way back for the Fall Fest. And we finally, and those coats and all this warm gear finally made its way into the Pierce clothing closet, which is in the field house. And there's a picture of it, and we put that in the social media and on the s'mores. And what it is, it's available for any Pierce student that needs warm winter clothes, jacket, boots, hats, gloves. They can go into the field house, grab whatever they need. So it's set up like very accessible and no strings attached, no questions asked. So it's just there for everybody to be able to use. And parents donated their time by washing all the coats, and we set it all up. And so it made, we made a sign for it. So it's really cute.
Michelle, can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
I think it's great. When are children who want to access the field house able to do so? Is it just open all day during the school day? Do they have to ask somebody?
The idea behind, we talked to Shelton and Coach Mike, and the idea behind it was if they know a need for a child, they would direct that child to where they can go into the field house, or they would get something for them to give them. But it's mostly at recess. If they notice that the kids aren't properly dressed, they just say, you know, head into the field house and go grab something. So it's usually for the outdoor activities that are going on.
Michelle, this is a great program. I'm very happy it's being done. Thank you.
Yeah.
It needs to be communicated because this just now makes sense. Something happened in our second grade where a child was given something from a coach. And the teacher was like, oh, is the coach allowed to give the kids clothes? Are they like, and I was like, and then the teacher asked me and I said, that could be a sticky situation because you don't want to give something and offend someone. I said, I would find out like, why was it given to them and you know where did it come from, because I don't think a coach can just like buy shoes for a kid.
Right.
But now that you're saying this, I think it came from the closet, but we as teachers had no idea.
Oh, okay.
And then we were kind of thinking like the coach bought this kid shoes and like what's like it's really generous, but like what's going on here? Like, is that appropriate?
Got it.
So I think that this is amazing.
So should
Yeah.
it be something
Could
that
the
Shelton
room
would
reps,
communicate, or would that wouldn't come from?
The room
PSO,
reps.
would it?
Could the room reps be the ones to let teachers know or?
Yeah.
Or
I think that's a great
send an
idea.
email to
Yeah.
teachers on behalf of.
Yeah,
PSO?
we put it in the s'mores newsletter, so I was hoping that would alert the community.
But the
But
teachers
I'll be
didn't.
but the
honest,
teachers didn't know. That makes
probably
sense.
Don't usually read this one.
But now this makes total sense because now I'm gonna follow up with my colleagues and be like, those books were not just at like, you know, Target, like there's a so this is, thank you, that's
So
great.
what about if, doesn't Kim, Ms. Leibowitz, give like a weekly or monthly like update to you guys? Could it go in
There's
there?
if you let Ms. Leibovitz know, we did a weekly staff newsletter.
Yeah,
Would that be a good place? Maybe we should do it that way? Okay.
and also letting us know that if we also see a child in need, that we can talk to
Yeah,
Coach Mike, or we can access the field house ourselves
exactly.
and get it, because I have no clue, and I've been bringing in my son's old clothes that I kind of just like filter out, because it's a great way to get, you know, but
Yeah.
it's a great way, so just let's communicate that, because I think it can take advantage of it. Thank you.
Something else to consider, the lost and found often gets overflowing,
Mhm.
and children usually don't go and check in their really nice coats. and
Patagonia, North Face.
coats,
Yeah, I
and water
know.
bottles and boots. and
Is there a
hats
statute of
and
limitation on the stuff that's at
Maybe
lost
that
and
is
found?
something that we could take over as a PSO, because I know the front office, Sally, and they have to get overwhelmed with things, so I could communicate with them to see if that's something we could take on.
Perhaps
Quarterly.
after a certain amount of time, that.
Yeah, I know that sometimes they donate it to Care for Real, but we could have some go to the closet, the rest go to Care for Real. I'll communicate with them.
I believe they notify when they're moving out to Los
They
Angeles.
do. Yeah.
Usually around like conference time.
Got it.
Yeah.
In some of those codes, I have had situations where the kids, when they're in after school, all of a sudden they don't have a code to go back home because they lost it. They cannot be found. So generously that I know that there's codes in there. So I have 2 cases in which I reach out and like, here, we have, let me go with the parents, or we go see the size, we keep it to them. And I say, hey, at least you can have a code to go back home. And we'll be looking for their code the next day. And someday bring it back clean again. Well, I told them, hey, you can keep it, it's a backup, in the car.
Absolutely, they are
And
allowed
it's
to
also good to know because I know there are times, sometimes I'll give a child a coat or something to wear at school and they're adamant they don't want to take it home and that's their own personal reason and I'm not gonna ask, but like at recess, it's nice to know that there's something there I can put on a child and you can take it back and there may be a reason they want to take it home, that's fine. So just communicating that out to us.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad, that sort of exciting. So, yeah, we'll make sure that happens. Yeah. And then the other thing that we did recently was to welcome back the Samey ESO in a banner for all the kids to sign and it's in the hallway. Haven't had a chance to see it. Take a peek. It's cute, and it was nice to have her back and show her that we missed her.
She's doing this.
Yes, I'm buttering her up and she's not even here. Anyways, the other thing that we did was the holiday teacher breakfast, which was the day before break. That morning, huge success. We brought it back in the old PSO fashion, where we got the Flacco's tacos, and PSO donated the money to buy the tacos along with other parent donors. And one of the community members also made homemade tamales, and it was a potluck, so it was a nice, generous offering for all the teachers. And then we also walked around the school with carts of snacks and drinks and whatever. And there was hot chocolate, hot coffee. So we tried to make sure we showed our appreciation for all the
It
teachers
was
and
much
staff.
appreciated.
Oh, yes, you're welcome. And we gave little goodie bags too this year. And then we also had our wonderful Helen the Sweater. She is the gift collections manager. She collected gifts she organized collecting all the money for the teachers and the entire staff of the school. And that was given out prior to break as well. And for next year, in the end of the year, we'll do this again. And they're going to include the 2 crossing guards that we have here at Pierce, which I thought was fair. Just to include everybody that works for the school and helps keep the school running and safe. The book fair was in November, and so we hadn't had a chance to meet, or I haven't had a chance to download you guys about how well the book fair went. It was from November 14th to the 21st, and it had been a couple of years since we had one, and the kids were super excited. Huge attendance. We had a ton of parent volunteers every day. All the slots were filled with parent volunteers. And it was run by Erin Payne, who did most of the organizing, and myself. And we raised $19,000 in sales, but I think it's 50% of that goes back to us in scholastic dollars. So that's about $10,000. And we tried to make it equitable for everyone, all the kids, which is not an easy thing to do. And we're still working out things and figuring out the best way we can do it for our next book fair, which will be March 21st to the 31st. We we initiated the e-wallet this year, so kids could have money sent in prior. It was electronic and their parents did it, so it was already queued up and they didn't have to bring money in, so there was not, didn't have to worry about the dollars. And then you can round up your sale, and all of the money that was rounded up was put into something called offer books. And we raised $329 in the offer books, but we supported $450 for students who didn't have enough money to buy books. So we donated that extra money, $131. So in total, $450 was donated to kids that didn't have enough money to purchase books. And then we also had a free bookshelf for kids to buy books that had been sitting around for a while. So we talked about ways we could improve it for next time, and we are always open to ideas. So I might, yeah.
Can I ask a question? Sorry. and not to
Sure.
extend the meeting or this hill that I die on, but every year I have an issue with the book fair. So like this year, I brought my class. I spent $50 of my own money because I had about 8 kids who were singled out as not having money because like we got up there and the kids were like, I have my key wallet, da, 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 da. So I had those 8 kids and we pick what you want, I'm gonna buy it. And like, that's my donation. So I'm wondering, and then I know you said there was the part of free books, but with all due respect, the part of free books was like kind of ripped library books. So I'm wondering if there's a way, like we do a lot of things to sponsor, like pre the book fair to front load of sponsoring a classroom. So like a classroom has like $100, right? And it's at the teacher discretion when we get to the book fair to give to the students. Because I can probably tell you who's gonna bring money and who's not, and like what's gonna happen. So I'm just wondering if that's something that maybe we could work on next year. And I actually would be willing to work.
Oh, that would be great.
That would be next year. I feel very strongly about the book fair.
Absolutely.
As does my husband, because every year I spend like $100 at the book fair or whatever it is on the money. And I just want to make sure that all the kids are getting it.
I 100% agree. I feel like there's got to be an easier way or in a way that's discreet and.
Because the eel wallet was great, but the kids like.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, what we had discussed was that the scholastic bucks that were raised, the $10,000-ish, that we would hold back like $2,000 of it for the next book fair. So that money is just basically there for teachers to help their kids get books who don't, for kids who don't.
But how do we access that? Like,
It's a digital wallet.
It would go in that e-wallet. So all the teachers have it in e-wallet.
okay, and is that dispersed? So my thing is when you get to the book fair, you come with your 27 kids and the kids are all running around to get their books and stuff. And you've got the same kids who don't have the money and they know that they don't have the money and the other kids do. And then it's given out right on the spot. I would like to try to find a way to front load it.
Yeah,
So
and
that-
it's like when they go to the register to check out, it's already there.
But they have to say, I don't have money, I'm gonna use, that's what I'm saying. We can brainstorm next year, but if there's a way to get with the teachers to have the money due at a certain time before, and then I mean, we could definitely brainstorm it, but yeah.
I think that to Jerry, I think the issue that you're talking about is local and that it pertains to issues we've talked about around field trips and student trips and the stigma and having to ask for coverage. So I appreciate the push to brainstorm. I think if we could brainstorm beyond the book fair or including the book fair, but in other ways to just think about how do we increase access for all students in a way that the students who need equitable access financially don't have to ask for it, don't have to name that.
Yeah, we did, we said there was a big school-wide e-wallet plot for kids who don't have the phone. I guess we have to talk about it, figure out the best way to do it, to make it, kind of like the coat closet.
Yeah.
Where it's.
That's why I was
It
asking.
doesn't really
how do we
matter, you go in,
access
it's open to everybody, so it
Right.
feels less
Yeah.
stigmatized, so, I guess we could,
Yeah,
have a meeting,
yeah.
form a committee to figure it out before the next year, so.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Jerry, I think that is pretty much it. Oh, and I'm trying to organize a family bowling day at the, for the whole, it would be for the entire school, whoever wants to go on a certain day at Waveland Bowl, so that's in the works. I'm not sure it's gonna happen, but it's possible, so that's what the PSO is gonna do.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Next on the list here, and Ms. Amy, on behalf of Ms. Amy, she had to leave, so, well, so. So, next item on the agenda is, REP, so I don't think we got a note from REP, I don't know. Folks attend, I don't think, was there a meeting?
I don't think they've. had
No,
any
their
since-
next meeting is next month. I was just meeting with somebody. No, I was meeting with Ashley, just
Okay,
informally this morning,
Okay.
coffee, and she was telling me that I don't think they set the meeting because it conflicted with the citywide coalition for LSC or for racial equity groups at schools, and they were trying to decide whether to schedule it for that same night, but I think they're going to, but I couldn't tell you what that date is right now, because I forgot.
very good. Thank you. So we're gonna move on to committee reports. First one is bilingual advisory committee. I don't know if somebody, I know there's a meeting next week. I see if there's an agenda.
Bianca's here.
I can give a report.
You're on the spot.
Okay. Hold on. It's on Tuesday next week? Yes, Tuesday at 3:15. It's not Thursday, it's Tuesday. In the field house.
The second.
It is February 2nd. February 2nd. Thursday. At the field house. At Appreciation. So,
I just want to be sure to go and come.
February 2nd. Okay, so we did not meet, in December. January, so. I think we already mentioned a little bit that, is holding the health benefits enrollment event, SNAP Medicaid on February 16th, 11, Fieldhouse. The agenda for the next BAC meeting is going to include Danae Gomez Velez from CPS Office of Student Health and Wellness. She'll lead us to a health plan benefits enrollment for parents. That'll be February 16th at 8 a.m. We're also going to have two guests from the Chinese Mutual Aid Association who will be at the meeting to give us information about ESL classes for parents. And Mr. Lerner will give us updates about ongoing access testing at Pierce. Also working with Principal Zavy to organize phone calls for newcomer families to promote the next back meeting, promote the next events, and just try to get them more involved with the Pierce community. At our last meeting, we approved our budget and ordered t-shirts for back members and participants. So we're starting to lay the groundwork for planning for the next new events, which will be another big event outside. Mr. Lerner and Principal Zamy will meet with the chief of the Office of Language and Cultural Education to request additional bilingual ESL for teachers.
Thank you. Next, PPLC.
We met on January 18th, where we discussed the upcoming African American Heritage Showcase. We also discussed the process in which we go through to plan field trips, and as well as the school's move to collecting money for those field trips in Aspen. But currently teachers don't have access to be paid through Aspen, so we're talking with Ms. Amy and Ms. Caro to figure out a system that doesn't overburden them to know how that process goes.
Are you talking about?
When you said that you discussed field trips, was there more to the discussion besides what you just said?
It was mainly about the logistics of how we go about the planning process, which is a lot of paperwork, which can become cumbersome at times and makes teachers less excited about taking time to plan for trips. There are a lot of approval steps that have to happen. Some of it is school, a lot of it is yeah.
Thank you. Next item is the equity committee. I'm part of the equity committee, and in true fashion, right before I'm about to speak, I sent you the notes because I had received them a little bit earlier. My apologies. There are 4 of us on the committee. We just welcome a new member. We started with more than that, and we had a couple of folks that actually left the city, went to the suburbs, and so we and others changed schools. So we were running low.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
So it's Cecilia Bocanegra, I consider it's myself, it's Jill Johnson, and Claret Campos. She's also she participates in that. I don't know that she's an officer or anything like that. And so what we reviewed, so trying to figure out what we're going to do as a group. So we took a look at the work that Josiah is doing. Rosario, who was here at one of the previous meetings talking about some of the studies. So we want to just make sure we understand what the affinity group work that he's been doing and how that can help us here as a community. We also talked about the work that Next Steps done and how we can plug into that and get more recent data and figure things out from that perspective. And our next meeting is going to be on February 1st. So next Wednesday. So we're putting together an agenda for that, and we'll pull it out for folks to join.
What time?
Usually it starts at 6.
Yes, no.
It is remote. Next is the principal evaluation committee. I don't know that we have a report, but I have some things to share with everyone. So we advertised and deployed and collected data for the 4th installment of the annual principal evaluation survey. It was in the field for about a week, actually 7 days total. So we try to sort of maximize sort of the outreach, whether it was to some of the Facebook groups asking for or requesting a link, or paper copies, or via we had it was a Google form essentially. We got a total of 258 responses. So if you split it between online, it was mainly online responses. We're about 40 paper copies. Our own here, Mr. Ramirez, put together a big box in front there, and, collect those. So the one thing that came out of at least on that was the parent and guardian survey. There was also a teacher survey that was rolled out. So a couple things. So now we gathered all the answers. So I'm in the process of entering the paper copy answers into the form so that we have a consolidated response. One of the things that I'm seeing already, and just kind of thinking about perhaps the next iteration, there were very few bilingual responses. In fact, one of the paper responses, the only reason I knew it was bilingual is because the comments were in Spanish, but the answers were, it was from the English paper version. So that tells me that in those 200 plus responses that we got, a number of them will be coming from the bilingual population, although it was filled in English. But I have no way of telling that because they picked one version over the next. That's the first thing. The second thing is in terms of the survey itself, and that's a recommendation or suggestion that was made by one parent, is that there is no question there about asking folks to volunteer, their background, right? Is it, are there, so I don't know if that's something that we can do. So I have a question into the CPS legal team or LSC legal team to make sure that that question can be asked. I
I'm
don't
sorry,
see.
the question to be asked, so a parent can say formally that they have like an education background, or they have, is that this?
So, no, more like, what's the person that's responding, what's their background?
What their ethnicity.
That's correct.
Oh,
That's
okay.
right.
I also got that feedback just to ask informally from the parents.
So, yeah, so like I said, I think it's a good idea. It'd be great if we can get that kind of breakout. I don't know what that looks like in terms of getting the approval. So in terms of next steps, we're going to send out the notification for a special meeting to be held this coming Monday. It will be remote, and so it will be a special meeting, at which point we're then going to break down into a closed session to discuss the results of the survey, but also make a recommendation on two things. Number one, approving the results of the survey, and also a vote on renewing Lori's contract. So, and that will be at that meeting. So that's pretty important discussion. So according to what we're getting from the LSC Office of LSC Relations, is that our feedback or our decision needs to be made not just on the results on this survey that came out. Matter of fact, there's more weight on prior surveys that were administered. So that would be one of the things that we need to share that with the members, because not all of us were. I think I'm probably the only one, well, besides the two of you, that was here last time we did it. So I'll need to share that with everyone, and so that everybody can, and Nicole too, I think. And then, so people can see what the results were for the last 3 iterations, in addition to this one.
And sorry, just to also add into that, we are not only looking at survey results, but we're looking at, I'm assuming Lori will come prepared with her own report as to how she's meeting her goals.
No, Lori, this is us only. I mean,
Does Lori, she doesn't attend it?
No,
Okay,
she will not attend it. We will review the results, and we, as a committee, or as an LSC, will actually also be asked to answer some of those questions, and there'll be a weighted average on, based on each person's response, and that will be melded on with the previous 3. But the guidance was such that there was more emphasis on the previous or the historical information, because they're talking about it from a continuity perspective, making sure that those surveys reflect both. They're not just at one point in time, right? They reflect, that 4-year time span.
so as far as, because I was under the impression that she is able to attend the meeting, but she's just not able to vote.
So the closed session, she won't attend.
Okay.
She will be at the session
Right,
meeting.
okay.
Once the closed session has ended,
Yeah.
we would then get back into that special meeting and, number one, present the results. I obviously give her the opportunity to, to make a statement, or as you mentioned, it's something else that she wants to bring up. But at the end of the meeting, there will be again a vote on approving the results, and then the vote on reviewing the contract.
Right.
And that's what I was talking about earlier, where because I was sent a copy of the contract as well as a copy of a document in the event that the committee or the LLC decides not to renew the contract. There's also another document that needs to be signed. So as I'm thinking through that, I'll need to check with her. So if I need to be here in person, I can. and to do that. I don't know that everybody else needs to be here, which is why we want to do this remotely. But I will have again a physical copy of the contract that would then need, so we'll make 3 copies of it, one for Lori, one for the LSC, and one for the Office of Local School Council Relations, to be filed.
I have a question for us. So today's Thursday, this meeting's happening Monday. Are there things we need to review? Are we reviewing data? before-
Yeah, so this weekend I'll send you you can already, I'll give you access to the survey result. That's a parent and guardian survey. I'll let Evan talk about, if we want to make that I don't know how we've done it in the past. It's just more for, that's their survey, right? I want to share with you what we got on the parent side. So I'm in the process, there were 44 responses or that were, paper copies. I'm in the process of pulling that up for the, putting that online so it's consolidated.
So will we see all the data? Will we see the teacher's data? Will they see the parents'
Would you
data?
like copies of the teacher data? Stuff? Okay. I'll find a way to share it. We used a Google form only, so I have to figure out how to
Summarize,
print.
because you don't need to print, it's not like every copy, it's just
So
summarizing.
like put it,
We use like that spreadsheet to
something
filter it all.
like, yeah, something like that.
And you just then share that? Like there's a share button.
But if I share the form, you'll just get a copy to fill it out. So I have to figure out how to like download, because there are graphs
Yeah.
and comments and things like that, so how
You can do screenshots.
Yeah.
it's typing. So
Okay.
it'll take quite a long
Or
time.
There's an option. I found one.
I'll look into it and then share that.
Yeah.
Probably over the weekend.
Yeah, so I'll do the same thing where it's, and again, so for the prior years, there's a website that we can access, pull up the results from the prior surveys.
For the contracts, though, I know in the, actually, Lindsay, you asked if Ms. will present anything.
Yeah.
I know in the past, the last time we voted on her contract, she kind of referred us to principal reports
Okay.
to show longevity of like meeting.
Yeah, and I think that's ultimately like when we did the training, I don't know if everybody has taken the principal evaluation training module yet, but like just even listening to that, it was like the survey results are a really important piece to the evaluation, but it's also the previous years. It's also the chief network, miscellaneous bosses, annual reviews. I think from what I remember, I think you are the only one that has access to those. I don't.
So those are not so those are the ones that so those are the ones that the previous LSCs
Okay.
filed, right? So the results that they submitted. So
I thought it was her boss has like his own evaluation of.
if it does, that will be in the
It would be in
report.
there?
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah, so
So I
that's.
think that is like really important for us to have as a collective group to be able to see as far as like, how is she meeting her standards from, her job requirements that, she's evaluated from that standpoint. Yeah.
How many pages? I just want to plan some carve out time, adequate time to really look at everything. I think you said it's lengthy, like any ballpark of
How many pages?
kind of time we need to do this.
So the actual survey has, number it, but. There are 4 sections,
That being compiled like.
and there's about
spreadsheet or
40,
graph.
so, yeah, each one of the questions will have, agree, strongly agree, do not know type, distribution. And then, so what I'm spending most of the time doing is actually entering the comments. Out of the 44 that I got, 13 of them had comments, some of which were pretty lengthy. Just typing that in just to make sure that everything is in there. So, I mean, yeah, so that's about 50 questions.
And how many total did you get? What was the final?
254. Actually, 258, my bad.
It's like 25%.
That's right, we're looking at a quarter. Last year was 162. The year before that, I don't know, I have to look. And actually, that I don't think that information is in the site that where I'm going to find. I think it's just the results. I don't have those stats. I do know that it's more than last year.
Those 258 only includes the ones, including paper. and
Yes, that's right.
That's for just parents, right? And
That's
stuff.
right, that's right. That's right. And so that's a good point that you make, because we sent out a more on my behalf when the survey was launched. And I got a response or an email from a community member. So I need to talk to Laura about that, because it looks like, so like the mailing list, we might need to kind of take a look at that. And make sure that who's in there or whatever. And then a couple of parents just gonna volunteer feedback, just informal feedback.
Question. Okay, so last time we came prepared with our ranking for each category, and we had already put it into the spreadsheet, and then we kind of talked through each category, and people could change their rankings. Is that,
Right.
is that what we want to do again?
That's right, that's
Okay,
right.
so, yeah, so just, I guess to explain that to everybody, so there's gonna be homework besides just reading everything. There's gonna be like actually doing your rankings, so.
So, yeah, so I think, if I remember correctly, I think we actually went through the rating during the meeting,
Yeah.
in a closed session.
I think if everybody like inputs their, I think the most efficient way to do it is everybody input their evaluation before the meeting, and then we can talk through each one.
Mhm.
And then if somebody says something that makes you want to change your rating,
Then you
it
can do
in
that.
the meeting.
Yeah. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
I think that was the most efficient, because if everybody gave her the same rating, we didn't need to talk about it. And we could
Yeah.
just move on.
If there's like a discrepancy, then people can make their case for why, like they wanted to go one way or the other.
Discrepancy in the overall, if we're gonna renew it or not renew it, is that?
No, specific questions.
So
So
it's two parts. It's the evaluation,
Okay,
like the annual evaluation, which is what we're doing in closed session. And so like, I think what you're saying, Nicole, is if Lindsay, you rate her a 3 in one of the competencies, I give her a 4. Like, you might ask, why am I giving her a 4? And I can justify my reason.
Yeah, and which is fine too, people can have different ratings, yeah. So. And then we'll look at the big picture over the 4 years and vote. But our rating should be based on this 1 year, right?
our rating
What time?
for this time, so we're looking at 6:15,
Okay.
because somebody who shall remain unnamed works until 6. Yeah, so,
Oh, that's a good idea, yeah.
so
I'm gonna take the lecture drive, get off on Poster, come back on Ashland and turn around park. So that's 15 minutes. Actually, it could be maybe 5 minutes, but unfortunately, some parents, for whatever reason, would not be able to make it on time to pick up their students. So I cannot leave any children or any white stuff.
How much time approximately should we allot for those of you who go through this process?
I mean, it's a pretty important meeting, so I don't know, a couple hours at least.
Typical LSC meeting times?
What's that?
Typical LSC. Yeah,
Yes, our average. I mean, I think we're pretty consistent, now, or, 2.5.
Okay, so sorry, Matthew, I have a question about this too. So for this year, we're evaluating just on this year, right? This will be the first step. And then we're gonna go vote. Then there's a conversation about all 4 years, basically, after that?
Right.
Got it.
But
And
again,
we'll all have
that's-
access to that spreadsheet,
So
basically.
all of that, and I think you'll share with us at the meeting, the evaluations from the previous.
or even
3
before
years,
that, I will try to do that tomorrow or this
so
weekend.
that we can get that bigger picture.
Okay.
I think my thought is, let's do this year's evaluation, which is actually not a full year because it's August until now. And then I think we have to evaluate them after the year, like for the full year evaluation.
So about that, I was actually going to go the other way around, to look at the, it's kind of what people think, but I would send us on the review of the prior 3 years to see if there are any questions or comments on what we shared. And then go into the new year. I don't know. I would think that it would clear some things out to look at prior information and then supplementing that with the current year. It was, with my discussion with Luis, he did put more emphasis on the prior year results, even though this is a new LSC.
Because it's 3 years and we're just 1 year.
That's right. And we also knew in quotes, right? So I wanted us to make sure that we reviewed everything that was there before, so perhaps it would corroborate or confirm some of the things that we're seeing, or some opinions for the current iteration. So buckle up, Monday's gonna be fun.
And an extra coffee, right?
I'm sorry?
So hopefully it's warm in here.
Oh, no, well, it's gonna be remote.
It's gonna be, yeah, it's only an hour.
Don't come back.
That's right. Well, I'm gonna see if you can learn.
Maybe, yeah, if we cancel you, maybe I
Yeah,
can.
I'll ask her if she wants to, if she wants to be around. She wasn't sure.
And I don't have to drive.
Yeah. not too lazy.
We'll be alone there.
Yes. All right, so, all right, good. Next, is bylaws.
No update.
Good. Next, LSC communications. I think we did a fair amount of that today. Thank you, Lauren.
I think one thing Kathleen actually brought up today was making sure we post in parents and peers, just to post each week, because that's a good communication tool.
Some people aren't ever at that door.
Yeah.
I'm probably like very rarely at that door. Obviously, I know about the meetings, but just thinking of when I wasn't on the LSC and.
Did you post on parents or peers?
He did.
Yeah, he did today, yeah.
Just.
So do we want to do when we, I was just kind of thinking about what you were saying, but do we want to just put a note there saying if you're looking for the link, or if you have any questions, to reach out to the peers
I actually
LSC?
gave instructions when I was, before I got here, and added to your post. If you're looking for the live stream, just go to youtube.com, type in Pierce LSC, you should be able to pull it up. Is that what you mean? Like,
Yes, that's what I mean.
Because because I had asked Matthew, I was sitting there thinking like, how can people access the link if it's not live, and the agenda hadn't gone out. Sometimes it does, and always more, but it just didn't coincide this time with our weekly newsletter. And so like, how do people get to that if they don't know? So
Yeah.
just pop out those instructions in there, because I didn't know if that link, when I clicked on the link, it led me to a weird page. But I think that's meant to be more live.
Did you click on the email today about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that was the information.
Okay.
Step by step.
Yeah.
That's, I put that in my notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, I think it's a whack-a-mole game of like, have we gotten down all the patches in terms of, that's not the right mental, I'm terrible at mental, but making sure that we use all the channels available, the communication channels available to make sure that everybody knows that there are meetings. Hopefully increase attendance. I'm so grateful you come. You're probably there. It's a perennial other schools. We're not doing that.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to the next item, new business. I wrote racial equity data. I think we talked about some of that earlier, but
Yeah.
if you wanna.
And I wish Lori was here because I wanted to raise the issue of, I attended the LSC equity meeting in December, or the one right around end of November, beginning of December. And Dr. Fisher, who's been working with the school, was there and gave, a really, what I thought was a glowing report of the work that Pierce has done around racial equity. Of course, she had some critiques, but Mr. Lee was there, and I can't even remember the context, but he named a number of data points that the school is disaggregating racially that I had no idea about. And Dr. Fisher made the point, that's information to communicate to the school and be consistent and transparent about it, because that's meaningful and important work. So I wanted to just ask Lori more about those points. I can't remember what they were. But, alongside Christina's question, because I'm part of the next steps cohort of how do we continually, consistently, transparently see just different data points in the school that are related to race, to EL status, with an eye on continually improving equitable access and outcomes for kids. So I'm just putting it out there publicly, even though she's not here, but I'd like to maybe we can revisit it next meeting and learn more about what those data points are.
One of the things I want to emphasize on that is that Aspen has not been proposed in there's a whole bunch of new things that we need to understand. And as a staff member, not teacher, we, I have seen or heard a lot of parents having problems working with the Aspen.
Yeah,
So
it's not an easy system.
it has not been the greatest thing to do. So the staff in the office, they've been working hard to help even parents to lock in into it. I have seen many parents have been getting help from the office, and ourselves that we tried. There's some days that Aspen is down, and they let us know, hey, I'm sorry guys, we're down for preparing so that's why when I heard about data, it's gonna take a little, probably this whole year probably for them to fix all these loops that they're going on.
Yeah, I think too, though, to Christina's point, there are qualitative conversations we can have too, that I think we notice we're tracking in a direction that we would hope to not be track about the I'm struggling with words because it's what happens when I get tired, but the discipline data. And I think that I'm a qualitative researcher, so I'd like to push for to not feel limited by the access to quantitative data that gets needed sometimes.
When you're able to go back and look at your notes from that meeting.
From the equity meeting?
Yeah.
I didn't take notes.
Okay, or maybe reach out to Mr. Lee. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking if there are certain data points that you're looking for, if we let Lori know ahead of time.
I don't have any in mind.
Come prepared.
Yeah, I don't have any in mind. I just was heartened to hear, and I didn't know that these were being examined. I wish I could remember what they were, but I can also send Mr. Lee an email just to say, what are those points about?
And then have him let Nathan know, and she can come with that information.
Yeah.
Then, she has what we're trying to find out.
Yeah.
How long, when did Aspen, when was it introduced?
A couple years ago.
3 years ago, 4 years ago? Maybe?
Yeah,
It's been a problem.
it took us 9 months to log into that. 9 months,
Yeah.
Make it sound so weak.
because everything had to match, because we had 2 parents' data, 3 kids, first name, last name, middle names, email addresses, everything was, I mean, it couldn't be a more perfectly shuffled deck of cards. And they had to just kind of undo all of that and then put it back together, which took 9 months. So, 9 months.
So now, this is Spanish speaking. You can imagine how frustrating it is for some of the Spanish speaking parents are when they hit the wall and they're like, I've been trying to make this payment and you know, they don't take it. It's not taking my password. You know, and they don't want the kids to be missed out by not paying because they're not getting through. So those are frustrations. They're like, you know, I'm like, you know, I can see Sally, I can see Lynn running back and forth trying to, and they, you know, actually. And some of the parents, they use their phones instead of the crumbs or laptops. And when you use your phone, you could be an hour there and it's not happening. So whatever is that problem is that's where I see it personally every day.
Kind of reminding me of the food for the code, the lunch code.
Yeah,
I mean, the
same thing,
yeah.
bureaucracy is.
Well, I mean, they need data on stuff, but they're not making it easy to kind of access it. Yeah. That's a good point. Thanks for bringing that up, Catherine. All right, next item is public participation. Public participation. All right, thanks. I'm sorry.
Oh, let me check.
Yeah, I think I mentioned the note from the survey feedback that they wanted to see if there was an option to folks to disclose, you know, just like the background. The bilingual stuff is just, I still don't know how to get around that. Like, it's just, like I said, I looked at all the reports and I'm like, wait, I know this is not an English.
So it's available in Spanish,
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I mean,
but conveying that is confusing. Is that?
No, so the online version was entered to by 210 in English and 4 in Spanish, which is actually double from last time. But again, some of the comments were worded, I mean, they were not in English, right? And that was especially true for the one paper copy that I got. All the comments were all in
answered the
Spanish.
English version one, and then some of the written stuff was in Spanish.
That's right.
So what's confusing is why they're just using the Spanish one?
Well, not necessarily confusing, but like, I'm not exactly sure.
Hurdle.
That's right. Why they do it? Why are we? What is it that will prevent somebody from entering the survey in, you know, using the offered option?
Right.
And you said there were 4 such of these? 4?
Online
For
and then one
Spanish
paper.
Yeah.
I think adding the like ethnicity question is gonna be key, because then we could see and like be more strategic and targeted, like what feedback we're looking for, instead of just like a open, you know, whoever wants to fill this out. Because if it is more Spanish speaking parents that we want feedback from, we could, you know, take the forms to a back meeting and have people do it on the spot.
Well, I mean,
There's different things we can do, right? So
yeah, I mean, like anecdotally, a lot of times what I've heard is that people just don't do it. So it's just trying to make sure it doesn't matter like what version it comes in, it's just drumming up that support. I think we tried, you know, like with whether, you know, all the postings online, the parent room reps.
Thanks, Cecilia reminded people, I want to say 3 times.
I think for a week turnaround, 200
Yeah,
and some
that's amazing.
responses.
It's not a
is
bad,
pretty great.
it's not a bad
We got,
sector, you know, slice of the parent population.
we
because
got 30
We
staff.
probably have what, like,
I don't.
We have a staff of over 100.
not much, and roughly 1,000 kids, but probably fewer fewer numbers of families. So
That's right.
that's not bad.
No,
really,
it's not.
because I,
Can you remind me too, is there a question within the evaluation of feedback about the evaluation?
No.
Because
There
that would
isn't.
be help, because demographics, if we're asking like the LSC legal team, you know, it doesn't have to be a whole other evaluation about the evaluation, but even just like, is there any feedback about this? Similar to the demographics, we can look at it from 30,000 feet more
No, you're
and
right.
say, yeah, we know that the Spanish-speaking families, 10 of them said this was hard to find, or this was, you know, then it makes it. Yeah. So if we're already asking legal, I think that would be another thing that would be helpful.
I also wonder on the surveys, I know the paper copies, as teachers, we got one in English, one in Spanish. So we had to differ, I mean, we know which families prefer what, but I wonder, is it possible, and I didn't look at the online version, but you know, English followed by / the Spanish. So it's one survey, one link, and then it doesn't, like, Spanish speaking families don't have to have a separate paper, a separate link.
That's one limitation in Google Forms, so that now you can have like a double link, but I think it's feasible, absolutely. So now what my only concern is, well, yeah, I mean, the answer options could be stacked, right? So so it will be the same option, the same box, it'll be more words in there. So yeah, so we can do that. That can be done. I think so.
No email questions.
Very good. Next item. Announcements, comments.
I just want to first apologize. I know you guys didn't see me for a month or almost 2 months. But unfortunately, after the 31st of the Halloween night, out of nowhere, I just had so much pain in my foot. And I was rushed to the hospital. And unfortunately, I had a surgery. I was in a very painful medication. And after that, I was not focused on what was going on. I was not on my feet for almost a month. And luckily, you know, they find what the problem was, and I had a reconstruction of the surgery that I had before. They still want to have another option because there's a pinched nerve that is it's so hard. I love my job, but I'm on my feet 80% of the time. So
that stuff is so painful.
that's why I have not been, I thought that I had said something to you guys, but I never did. So for that, I apologize, but I probably will be able to follow you guys online, but I wasn't thinking. Mainly is because I had so much medication going on. It was a couple. I had to get insurances to be able to cover for a special medication, so they would have to take my food off. But I dodged that one, so I'm back at almost 80%. I would say I'm still in therapy. I love them, but they make me a lot of pain. They're still working 100%, but trying to be more cautious of how much time that I'm on my feet and how much time that I go back and forth. And if I can skip one trip, I will do it. But I still want to make sure that the place is safe. That's my main goal. That we still have the same contact with the kids and everything. So that's why you guys have not seen me. I miss you guys, and I know that you guys were doing as much as well. Unfortunately, Miss Amy was gone at the same time.
Yeah.
And as the principal was very dearly, Ms. Cortez, I asked permission that I came to my mom and I say I had to be out for so many weeks, but she told me, hey, we need you, but we need you when you're ready. So that's why I wasn't in the meetings, and I think I missed two.
No, I think they're letting us know. Yeah, I think it was
Maybe one.
Yeah.
I lost
that's it.
track, to be honest,
We've had kind of a long break, so you
Yeah.
didn't miss much.
I don't
but we
take
missed you.
medication. I don't like medication so much. I can take the pain, but not this one. This one was, then Ms. Munoz was there. And I told her I gotta go. And then the next morning I was already Swedish. And from there, just, I had a good doctors watching over me. I came up with, I make my wife mad for a whole month. She was, okay, you gotta go back to work. But I'm, that's why I'm just, quite frankly, when I say I'm gonna commit to something, I like to give my 100%. But, my health came first. That is absolutely. And your kids comes always first. But I'm here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for telling us. Glad you're back.
Thank you. You still see me limping, it says I still have this conscious and not trying to put all the way.
Yeah. I thought it was the LSC survey box that fell on your foot.
No. Well, I make that box as big as that I can find, so everybody feel welcome to fit.
Thank you. What else? Alright. We will quick checking on the norms. I enjoy the meeting, so. With that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Okay. Thank you again, everyone. We'll be out. I'll be sharing some information and then we'll be meeting on Monday. Thanks again. So I'm gonna get Sam to get us some. So like, breakout session, Zoom. This one we need two. Because last time we like exited the one and we got into the next one. Right. Someone asked me if we could just do that. If either I'm the host or just a host. We don't want her to be the host. We want to be able to get it. So we'll figure it out.
I want to have that.
Thanks for coming.
After 6:15 on Monday, right?
I'm gonna see you.